Okay, it is February 8th, 2021, and we're going to go ahead and it's 6:04. We're going to get our Facilities and Transportation Board meeting started. Let's introduce ourselves. Kevin Strobel.
Bucky Scott.
Kristen Thompson.
Greg Cooper.
Okay. Go ahead and jump in, Steve.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the facilities meeting. I'd like to start off by saying I hate snow. We're working diligently every day to keep these buildings open and doing a pretty good job, I think, identifying issues, and they're being addressed pretty promptly by alders with snow removal. By the end of the year, we're sure we're going to look at the bill and go, it's going to be expensive. So the first item on the agenda this evening is the Barta Coca-Cola beverage proposal. I did send it out to a few members and Dr. Cooper for review in electronic format. I also did put a copy in the folder I shared with everyone tonight. Basically, we had a similar proposal that was in place for a long time with Pepsi Cola, and this one is a proposal by Coke, because the one by Pepsi went by the wayside in 2020 and has never been replaced. I was approached by the athletics boosters and other persons involved with the sports and booster programs and asked to bring it to the committee. We did a walking tour with the representatives from Coca-Cola, including the consultant who put the presentation together, Lori Weimer. Barta is a local company. They do sell Coke products and other products in the market. I would think that the best thing to do, and that's the reason I printed it out and sent it to you all, is for you to review the proposal as set forth and see if there's any interest in proceeding from a board level. Obviously, it's not really something I can be involved in. I did help to identify the locations where they propose in the presentation.
And these are locations for machines?
It's basically machines and stuff that's sold at concession stands and other locations, faculty lounges, and whatnot. And the proceeds of the contract, which I believe are at the it's not quite at the last page. It's like on page 7 on the backside. It shows the totals per year of what would be, estimated to be received for sports boosters programs, athletics. I did have Director Eileen Schmidt involved in the process. She asked me to bring it forward to this committee because a lot of the support and walking around and the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis involves facilities in the logistics sense and then the supply sense. So if you look at it, it gives you the totals from 2021 to 2025, 26, and then the total amount of reimbursement the school district would receive from allowing the sale of the products inside our areas such as the main gym at this building, the middle school. They tailor it so that locations that are accessible to students carry products which are acceptable, caffeinated beverages.
Right.
Those sorts of things.
Dr. Cooper, in the past, I don't think you were here when Pepsi was here. Are they going to, is this just, I don't know where we would come in as a facilities committee. It's $6,000 to whatever committee they want to put it. There's no cost to us here.
It's a standard soft drink proposal that we would ask the board and have someone approve.
Okay. Is this is a percent? She would like us to bring this up in a voting meeting to move forward with it. Then, do you need to vote on this?
Typically, we would have to approve a contract. All contracts have to.
Okay. I just want to be sure.
Right.
Yeah.
The last one was Pepsi expired 2020. So.
Okay. And they never came back in looking to get back at it. I have no game in it. Pepsi, Coke, I don't care. So.
Right, I don't either. It's more for the consideration, and I think the reason I printed it out and sent it to you all so you have time to review it And I didn't know if there was any addendums that should be added, or this is the first time I've ever done a contract like this. So the presentation looks pretty straightforward, but it definitely needs to be considered by the board before we can move forward.
Does anybody object? I mean, it's $5,000, $6,000 that goes to our boosters. I mean, I can't see any reason to not do it. I
Do you
mean,
know how much we made on Pepsi?
pardon?
Do you know how much we made on Pepsi?
I do not. That was my next question would be is, what,
It's about the same as what, maybe you're not going to see much difference between what they're providing as far as,
right, and then as far as the contract's concerned, I mean, do we have a Pepsi one? If you're looking for us to read the contract, do we have the old Pepsi contracts? Do we have a point of reference? I mean,
From the Pepsi contract?
yeah, I mean, any comparison? Does legal look at this stuff since this contract? Is it?
you'll see this isn't a contract, it's a presentation about the contract to be drafted like.
Okay.
So the contract itself isn't here yet.
I got
It has
you.
to be drafted. Take a look at the last page, it just indicates that this is just a presentation. It's
Okay.
like the last page. And
It's
it's a
for your
proposal,
consideration.
not construed as binding agreement.
I see no reason whatsoever to not do something like that. You know what I mean? You'd have to talk me out of it. Who gets the money? Which booster? Is it specific to one? Is it spread evenly amongst them?
I believe it goes across between athletics and the boosters programs, which is great. I mean, we should be bringing money into the school and also doing it in a productive and, beneficial way for the buildings.
Other than health issue of shoving sugar down their throats, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
No, I mean, I think that when it comes to caffeinated beverages and sodas, that would be limited to the faculty areas for their.
Correct. The vendors would have to follow the nutrition standards.
Right.
Things are not able to be made available to our students
Okay.
between the school hours.
Yeah, I just, for the life of me, couldn't think of a reason to not do it. So the next step for us then is,
Yeah, we would, I think we'd move forward with having to draw up the contract. And
Okay.
that would, at the recommendation of the facilities meeting, move forward with, when that contract is done, putting it up for approval.
Ms. Thompson and Mr. Scott, want to move forward with it, you think?
I prefer Pepsi, but I'll go with it.
Okay.
I like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Coke's the winner tonight.
There's like 8,000 jokes in there. I'm going to leave alone. Yeah, I see no reason not to. I mean, there's a side of me that wants to go, call Pepsi up and see how low they'll go. No, I'm kidding.
I'll ask the representative to draft a contract and submit it next month to the board.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the list is a high school rework of domestic piping proposal. So this is an interesting one. It came about due to some issues we've been having for several years within the buildings with concerns to the water quality in the buildings. Basically, it's funny, we're seeing it more this year than we have in years past. And basically what's happening is your main water supply, your main domestic water supply comes in from the building from the Chestnut Street side from the Birdsboro Water Authority. It edges its way up the hill to our main pump and generator room, emergency generator room and transformer room. And then it's dealt out through a series of pumps, either whether it's through domestic for drinking, to the fire systems, or whether it goes for HVAC or whatever usage the building has, kitchens, whatnot. Over this time, and apparently it's been going on for a long time, there's been several years where we've seen cases of brown water inside the buildings, coming out at the kitchens, and a lot of times the staff for a long time had been running the water until the brown parts of it went away. Now the water is not in any way, shape, or form harmful to anyone, but it can be a problem because it stains, different fixtures. It's been tested several times by the Water Authority, by us. We had a third party. I found some records from a few years ago. They had a third party come in because there were some concerns. Well, we think we've identified the problem. When it comes into the building, to that room, there's what a large pressure vessel, basically is what it is. So the water comes in order to keep the commitment of the water demand throughout the building, since it's spread over a large area, it keeps this water in a large pressure vessel. So when the drawdown for water demand comes by, it pulls from that large tower inside that room. We believe what it is that tower is 20 plus years old. It's huge. It's not something that's even available in the market anymore. And we believe what we're seeing is this residual inside the tank itself that we can't get out. We've tried flushing it, we've tried different products to try to get it cleaned out. So the proposal in front of you is to remove that existing storage tank and then install new pumps, install new piping, and basically redo that whole system inside that room. And this is something that we wouldn't propose doing. Obviously, we can't do it right now because we'd have to shut down the school buildings. But I wanted to throw it out here as soon as possible because I didn't want it to fall away and not be remembered as something, through the course of this year with COVID and the snow and everything else that goes on a daily basis, things get dropped off the radar. So we want to throw this out for consideration to be done over the summertime. To revamp that system, which I believe would take away the brown water issue in the building. I'm about 90% sure that that's the cause of it.
Is Carl Shack, the guy who's doing it, is he saying this is the problem? Not, I think that's the problem. We replaced that. It turns out to be something else. Is he saying that's the problem?
I'm saying that's the problem. I can't see anything else in the system, including water heaters and whatnot, have been replaced recently in the last couple of years.
Can we find out that it's brown right past it then?
We did, and we actually were able to cut, there's an access port at the bottom. We were able to open that, and it was filled with a sludge scum material, a buildup over time. There was a period in which the water softener system wasn't working here. Obviously, you can get into trouble with a tank that size if the borough is even flushing their lines. That stuff will build up inside.
Is there any sediment filter before it hits us?
It has a strainer, but I don't always know that strainer was there. It is currently there, and it was there.
Yeah.
But the theory is basically that the strainer was removed for some period of time, and all these particles were able to get in there. So we've tried everything from vinegar to cleaning products to try to clean that tank out, and it's just not happening.
Wow.
So we want to be proactive over this summer and try to knock.
Do they replace these with stainless by chance?
I'm sorry, say again.
Is this stainless that's going to go in then, or is it
I
is it
think
a coated
that's-
tank? Is it fiberglass?
I think that what they're looking at doing is reducing the size of the tank because there's no real need with the Navion systems we have for boilers and the draw to actually have a tank of that size. We think that it was designed and its original purpose was never utilized. So we're thinking, and it takes up the whole inside of the room. So we were able to put back a lot more equipment in that area where that tank is currently housed. And it's really not serving a purpose. It's completely oversized and clunky to put it in a. It's just not.
Yeah. Any questions? I mean, it's.
We want to look at doing it.
Is it for drinking water, or is this just like for bathrooms? I mean, is it just for toilets and things of that nature?
It's basically pretty much everything with the exception of the fire pumps in the stadium.
Okay.
It's on that loop, and that includes the cafeterias and everything. So
Okay.
I think it would do us a great service by getting rid of it and putting in these things.
So right now, the dishwashers are filling up with brown water.
Right. And it's not constant, but especially when the building's empty, you'll notice if we have to have 5 days out of school for some reason, or if we have a holiday or there's an extended time off, you'll come back and you'll see the brown water has reappeared again. But when we have flow and there's a lot of people, obviously what's happening is drawing down from the bottom of the tank, settling, and then it's drifting into the system.
Wow.
So it took quite a few months. It took us like 4 months to figure this out. It was a remarkable.
So is this something you want us to bring to the voting committee for next meeting?
I mean, we could do it now, or we could do
Yeah,
it.
I think if we could get the committee to bring it together for, out for the voting meeting in February, the end of this month, and we can get on the books and appropriately budget for it.
Right. Okay.
And your plan was to do the work this summer or over spring break?
Over the summer,
Over the
just simply because of the time, and we would basically have to drain down the system, the whole school. You know, we could isolate certain areas like the district office and run that off a separate feed for a short time, but it would take us a week or more to drain it down, clean out the system, and then re-pressurize the system and test.
With the new system, this is a question because you're saying we don't need a tank that size. Do we need a tank at all?
We do only for on-demand. What would be a good example of on-demand? If we had sports and they were using the locker rooms and they were showering, you would need a system like that in order to keep, it's just like your hot water heater at home. In this case, it's not containing hot water, it's just containing water, period. It then is then fed through the system, through a burner, and then sent out, you know, hot water this way, cold water this way. So it would be just like placing a hot water heater in your home. But you know, when you do that, you gotta shut your main off, you have to, you know, get everything drained down. And in a building this size, it takes quite a bit to do, to get it, you know, pressurized, unpressurized, and drained down.
Okay.
So I think it's a worthwhile venture. I don't think the price is that unreasonable, and certainly if it seems to be too much, I can certainly see if we can get a couple of prices to bring the price down.
I don't know how we never don't get more than one price. First off, I think that was part of what we don't. Isn't that a requirement for us on certain things? We have to get more than one price.
It gets hairy because you have co-stars and then you have certain people that are like Train, our HVAC system here. It gets tricky because Train is pretty much involved in every building we have and every system.
Yeah.
So what happens is when you bid that out, is I can bid it through Train, or I can bid it through Berkshire Mechanical with Train equipment, but the pricing is pretty much identical.
Right.
So it gets tricky.
I got you. This
I
has
mean,
nothing.
I can-
This has nothing to do with tram, though, right?
Right. No. This is Berkshire Mechanical, but it's their plumbing side that came up with the
Right.
proposal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how we can be pushing brown water through the building and not have that be an issue. So
Right.
I think it's
So-
not. It's a must.
Yeah, I was tardy, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So was I.
But, I just, the current one that you say, you believe is oversized, how big is it?
It's huge. I
And
think
how
roughly
many
it's
gallons
like
is that?
it's like I believe it's like 700 gallons.
Okay, and the one that you want to replace it with?
The ones that we want to replace it with is two smaller units that are approximately 200 gallons each.
200 each?
Right. Which would give us more than enough water. Why that tank was ever installed there, no
Well,
one can figure
I
out.
mean, will the plan also be when we do preventative maintenance and stuff like that, we'll pull down one at a time?
Absolutely.
Okay, did I miss that too?
Yep.
Okay, great.
No, I didn't bring that up, but that's
Well,
an
there's
excellent-
only-
excellent point.
There's only
Right.
one 700-gallon one that we're going to replace, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. So what you're saying with maintenance on these, backwash them and whatnot.
yeah,
You can take one down and leave one up,
Like a
bypass the
lead.
And
system.
two, I mean,
Yeah, like one is a lead, one is a lag, I guess.
right.
Perfect. That's exactly the way it is.
The and because we put backwash sediment filters on everything. I know you can do them in buildings, and they're not like a house filter, but they self flush after so many times. That keeps all the garbage out. So
Right.
I don't know what that would be to add to that, but a screen, I would think it's like a faucet screen. It's going to get clogged up, and then what do? You take it out
Yes.
and they let it fill in because they don't have one to replace it versus something that backwashes. And so
Right.
I'd probably consider maybe having them ask what's available and how much to have, because if you keep the sediment out, you won't have this issue again. You know what I mean? The tank's not bad; it's sediment in the tank, and you're saying you can't flush it out.
Not, well, we've tried to flush it out with several products and it's just not flushing. And we can't get inside because the hole is too small for someone to get in there. We were looking to try to do it like row style, you know, climb through like a third John thing, but we can't get in there.
Micro.
Is it oversized like that because we used to have boilers here?
I think what you have is a piece of equipment possibly, that was there before they switched over to the Navion units
Uh-huh.
and was just kept in play because someone looked at it and said, well, why should we replace it?
Perfectly good, ridiculously large.
Right. You know, let's reduce the cost here, let's stay away from doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
And
That's-
on the
that's
back
why-
side of it, I'd hate to see the 400s be ridiculously small.
I mean, we wouldn't even be talking about this if, with regular maintenance, it was giving you zero issues and it was oversized, you know, so,
I would just leave it alone.
yeah.
You know.
I got you. Okay.
Okay, the next item on there is the chiller tower high school repairs. They are complete. We have not tested the system yet because obviously the temperatures are not in agreement with doing that. We have slated for Berkshire Mechanical to come back in April, once the temperatures stay above 50 degrees for several days, and then we will test that system. All the new media and fill is put in there. It looks terrific. They put in some check valves this time, so we don't have any pipe burst issues. You know, they upsized a lot of things in there, so it's more efficient and costs us less money to run over time. So I think it was a great project. I just wanted to make the board aware that it was completed. We're just looking to test sometime in mid-April, I guess, with the temperatures. Fire system testing and service contracts. That is in the folder that I gave you. I'm sorry, Julia, I didn't bring one for you. I can share these.
I feel very lucky.
So we had 3 bids. So this took a little bit of time. We had 3 companies to come out here and walk the buildings with us, look at everything we have. They looked at our fire pumps, they looked at our sprinkler heads, they looked at our fire extinguishers, our hoods over the kitchen, cooking areas, dry systems, wet systems, everything we have basically everywhere. And each of the buildings we have, which is 5 or 6 depending on where we are on the calendar. So I think the lowest priced one was Kissel O'Brien, and they came in at 15,137, I believe, or something close to that. The next one up was SSI. There were about $700 more, and BSGI came in last at 22,000. It's like picking off a menu. When you listen to the menu come out, and they do this for a living, and they know what they're talking about. They can sometimes talk about it in different ways, and they look at things as different priorities and different costs. Obviously, not all costs are the same for each company. Sometimes it costs them more just to come out. I was impressed by all 3 companies. All 3 are reputable companies that are nationwide. Well, BSGI is not. Let me retract that. SSI and Kissel O'Brien are. BSGI is more of a local company. We currently work with them on our door systems. We did have I2. We moved to BSGI a few months ago. They do great work. They do a lot of local companies, including Reading Hospital and others that have a good reputation. They're very responsive. However, the cost to justify between the 2 other competitors and the higher BSGI, their contracts are pretty much identical in what they're saying. They go about it a little bit different termage. If I had to pick one of the 3, I think SSI was the most responsive and in tune, and I think they really wanted to contract, but again, that doesn't matter.
They do business with us already for the cleaning services. They just offered more things.
That's SSC.
Pardon?
They're different companies.
SSI and SSC? Okay, SSC, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
SSI, I forget what it stands for now, I forget the acronym.
Okay.
But I was impressed with all 3 of them. I wouldn't feel heartfelt in losing one of the 2, and with the board's decision, if they wanted to go with the cheapest route, I think that's prudent. And I think that was Kissel O'Brien.
What's the difference between them? What's the difference between them?
Hardly anything.
Hardly anything.
I mean, is the board okay with letting him pick? I mean, that's what he does. I'd be inclined to follow your recommendation.
Currently, our current contract expires in March. It's with Pletcher Fire Protection.
I see.
And when I did look back at Pletcher's costs, it's relatively close to
Yeah.
what the other three vendors are proposing. Pletcher went a different direction. I think he centralized his business and moved away from our area.
Oh, he went a different direction as far as work that he's taking.
Right.
Okay.
So they didn't want to bid on it, although we had a good relationship with them. I think it's also prudent to have a new vendor come in from time to time because they see things that you naturally don't see.
Yep.
And it is their profession, so I think it's, any of the three that are chosen are fine with me.
I've never heard of SSI. I mean, everybody knows Kisser O'Brien, but if you feel more comfortable with SSI, I think the prices are close enough to let him pick.
I agree. I don't see a lot, I don't see much different, I don't see anything different actually in what they're providing for services. So, I guess it just matters, reputation and who you felt were that.
I worked with Kistler and SSI quite a bit.
Okay.
My former gig before I came here, and I thought they were both responsive. It's pretty close.
So one's in Brenningsville and one's in Bethlehem?
That's
So
correct.
they're not, neither one, they're involved.
And Pletcher wasn't either. Pletcher was more out towards Pascagoula Valley, almost Schuylkill County.
Okay.
So you're hard pressed to find a local company other than BSGI that's in that business right now. You have a few that are at smaller scale, but not of their scale. And when we look at doing the fire systems, because they're so diverse in these buildings when it comes to cafeterias and fire pumps and classroom protection and alarms, and we have a very diverse setup in our buildings, because you're trying to take into account all activities that could possibly occur in a school building. I think all three vendors are equipped to do that. Good job.
So I don't have strong opinions about either one, so. I think you said the same.
I think we need to follow what you do, so, because they're so close and,
I mean, I like SSI only because of how they were when they were on site. Seemed a little more responsive, but, I wouldn't be upset if they fine.
again, is this something we need to bring up?
Move that forward for the meeting, voting meeting in February, out of the facilities.
Yeah, and that's critical for timing. Generally, the way it works, it did last summer anyways, we waited till the end of June almost, until graduation was over, and we were concluded with the school year in full, and then we started the fire inspections in June, and with the goal of wrapping the last part, which is the backflow and testing. You'll also see, and I should mention this too, we utilize our fire contractors to do our domestic water backflow testing as well, which we have to report to Pennsylvania American and the Water Authority. So they understand that, and that is included in the contract price.
I start sweating when we go over 50. No. I'm kidding.
Okay, the next item on here is the facilities and buildings schematic storage area. We talked about this last month. I was able to get a price together. I didn't have not had a chance. It was so crazy today to break this out in a little bit of a better format, and I didn't want to include it because it was almost embarrassing. But what I've come to figure out is I got a price from Halters to remove the racks, clean up the area, and move the rest of the schematics from the middle school and the Weavertown Road building, and clean the area above. The proposed area that we would like to put them in is an unused area above the copier print center, located in room E3 here at the high school. It's right outside where my office is and the maintenance office is in E2. It's on the second floor. For anybody who went to school here, this is where they used to store the metal from the metal shop at one time, way back when in the 80s. It's now just been abandoned, mostly for the last 10 years, from what I understand. And there's old parts and pieces of the stuff that are just laying around up there. So it would be to reutilize the space. It's not currently in use. Shouldn't affect the operation of the building whatsoever. It would be $3,500 for halters to do the removal of the current racks that are up there and the materials that are laying around, basically getting a dumpster, cleaning everything up, looking at what can be salvaged, moving the rest of the equipment over from Weavertown Middle School and other locations to centralize it. As we discussed last week, you have a lot of the schematics, manuals, and books spread out in every building. This will be able to provide us with a centralized location. It's critical, really, because when you have a serious issue and you need to look at these schematics, they should be stored in an area where it's accessible, just like a library, where you can go to the schematic you need. Hey, this is mechanical. Hey, this is electrical. Hey, this is plumbing, structural, civil, whatever the case may be able to pull that schematic and get to what you need to know right away.
Is there a thought, and this is just to throw this out, to have them scanned prior to putting them all in one spot? Because right now, if a room catches on fire and you lose one building, that room catches on fire and you lose them all. Is there a thought maybe about getting them scanned into a system that can be utilized on site? Because the other part is they have to leave that building, come way over here, get the schematic, and go back out. And so you know what happens when documents leave their area, they never make it back.
That's correct.
So there's just two sides to that. So is the thought there to scan them prior to pulling them all together? Or?
Well, I took it on myself. I was able to luck out and get a lot of the buildings and grounds ones and the civils done through Boyer Engineering when we did the paving project last summer. So I have a lot of them electronically. Here recently, I was able to get trained to commit to doing our electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and scanning that over for us. So they're working on that now. So there would just be a remainder basically of schematics that would be, if it's not civil, it would probably be structural, your door charts, everything that, ground buildups, foundations, those sort of things would still need to be scanned. So I can actually, once we get this organized, I can actually figure out what the costs are. At this point, it's like throwing a box of pennies up in the air, trying to figure out, what year they are. You just can't figure it out because it's too spread out.
Okay.
It's something that should have been considered a long time ago because I just don't know how you. Like, I think what happens is certain people know where stuff is, over time. But obviously, the way you should do it, especially with succession planning, is you should have this stuff somewhere where, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, everybody knows where it's at, and they can go and pull the schematic that's needed. Electronic storage should be something that we consider down the road. So the halter's all for $3,500, and from what I can tell, I want to get the pivot wall racks, the ones that actually spin out and pull. You can separate them just like maps, and then you can pull them over and look at them. We have a table that was left over from my old office. We'd stick that up there so you can actually detach them, set them on the table, open them up, and read them in a matter that, is working. That was $2,000. So total for the project is $5,500. Any other work to improve lighting, we could do through the maintenance system. So there wouldn't really be an added additional cost. It's an existing cost within our normal budget. So there would be no need to request. It would just be the money for halters to move everything and in the racks themselves, which are $149 a piece. And I estimated 10 to 12, 13 racks would maybe need it.
So the equipment's around $2,000 for all the racks.
Around $2,000 for all the racks and $3,500 for the movement. So it's around $5,500.
I don't have an objection. It's something that needs to be done.
I agree.
Anybody? No?
That's what we do.
And that's something we're going to put on the.
Yeah. I'm almost done talking. How about that? It wasn't too painful. The last thing I have is and I didn't get a chance today to run the actual written quarterly reports, so I'm going to give an overage, but I would like to propose that the board gain access to the FMX system to look at this data live. And the reason I say that is because there's in my mind, oversight is a good thing. if you want to be able to look and see, well, where are we spending our money? Especially if you, as a board, are working on something, you know, and you want to look at the costs long-term or anything, FMX could be an excellent tool to determine what our facilities costs are. So I'd like to suggest that I shoot an email out to each of you with the login information, and you're able to access that information and look at basically how many work orders we have in the system.
Is there a summary area? Because I mean, we
There
probably,
is a summary reporting area where you can report on a building, on a space, on a piece of equipment, on an individual employee, however you want to list it and look at.
is it review only access? I mean, we wouldn't want our
It'll-
fingers in there adding work orders. I mean, you know,
It'll,
is there a view only access?
I'm sorry.
Is there a view only access? In other words, you wouldn't want us having access to where we open up a work order. Not that we would, but
Right.
we delete a work order.
Right,
We're
there's
fast-
like a reporting access that's on there, where you can see, you can pull reports and summarize, and see what's going on a daily basis. I just think it makes good sense for everybody to be able to see what's going on. I mean, certainly, there's also the part of management versus, you know, what gets out to the public, but I don't think there's anything really in there worth hiding. Not in my mind, and I know that other places have the similar stuff. Not that you necessarily need to know how the system works, but if you wanted to pull a report and just see where we were. Very impressed with how our maintenance program is going here in the short time that we've had it. I mean, when you come to think about it, we've only had halters and SSC since July, so it's been a series of 8 months, and it's been a rough 8 months with COVID. They've responded rather well. I know I've told the board that before. The week before I was on vacation, I came back and there were only 10 open work orders. And most of them were either waiting on parts or, but they're on it. And that's great. That's the way it should be. We should be having a lag where there's hundreds of work orders open, you know, and I think that that's a positive for the school. I know that when I talk to teachers and staff, I've been trying to take tours since the beginning of the new year and get around and actually talk to the teachers in the classroom and say, hey, are your classrooms clean? Are you seeing anything? Is there any suggestions? And I'll do that. I'll walk with Colin Halter or Jason DeBona in most cases, or with Thomas Sneed, the manager for SSC. And we'll actually walk around and converse with these folks and say to them, hey, you know, do you have any suggestions for us? How are things going? I'm going to say 98%, you know, are coming back and being very positive with us. I mean, there's always room for criticism. Certainly, it needs to be said if it needs to be said, so that people are safe and things are working and functional. But I think we're moving in the right direction, and I don't think there's anything in the system that should be shared.
I think it's great that it's going so well. This is just my opinion. That they do. I think it's fantastic. And having few open work orders, two things always pop into my mind. One, before I get access to that, I'd rather have somebody just give me the report on a quarterly basis. Because
And that's
I mean, we
awesome.
could paralysis through analysis, right? Like I have enough time to go in and look at my own reports versus the school's reports for that. So, and then plus when I get in there, if I'm not familiar with the system, I'm not going to know where I'm going. So I'm going to be poking and praying. So, you know, I'm not suggesting you don't do it, and I appreciate the openness to do that. I personally probably wouldn't want to have that. I prefer you to come to us on a quarterly basis. Maybe we set it up that on a quarterly basis. Give us an update and a report, because you know that's what you do, right? So we suggest it like you're doing now, and say, you know, go over to things, and if you're running into any issues, to bring them up that way. That would be for me. I mean, anybody else's thoughts on the report side and gaining access to the system?
Yeah, I think your approach makes,
Sorry. I think Mr. Sherrill has a point. You know, I mean, openness is good, but knowing the fact that, you know, we're all busy and overwhelmed enough, you know, we're probably not going to take advantage of the open book policy. And you know, if there were, you know, if any of us ever come to you with desire to learn a new tracking system, you know.
What's go-
I'm just knowing that you're open to teaching us something, it makes me happy.
I mean, you know, what's going on with,
Absolutely. I just
what's going on with work order number 9,465? It's been open for at least 6 hours. Why, you know? And I'm kidding, of course. The other thing was, a few work orders open, I mean, and how do you feel about the input of those work orders? Because in the past, you know, we did a lot of different things. I remember the previous to, as the cleaning before the cleaning company, and they didn't use the system. It was done on spreadsheets, and there was other things, and so this is all very encouraging that, you know, the work orders are written open, the building managers, so to speak, people that are in charge of the buildings know how to open those work orders up, and they're getting closed on a regular basis, and so that's
I would say 90% of the time, I don't even have to be involved in the process. That's being handled by the contractor. And as a prime example, today I was talking with Mr. Bailey, brought to my attention to some lighting issues in the annex gymnasium. And I basically told him, I said, look, I'm glad that you walked me down here and showed me, but you're, you know, 100% better at just putting a work order in the system, because when you put that work order in, it also provides feedback to the teacher on statuses of how things are proceeding.
right.
So if we get into a point where we don't have the part, it'll notify, you know, when they go back in for an update, hey, we're waiting on parts, this is the process. So I think it's just a smart maintenance program, and I just want to make sure that the facilities committee had access to
Yep,
take a
no,
look
thank
at
you.
it if they felt necessary to do that.
I like-
hate burning trees and printing reports unless I, you know.
No, I think a verbal report, even, you know, or via email, we don't have to burn the tree. We can look at it electronically if there's anything
Yeah,
in there.
I can do that.
And not to kill us with information either. Here's 75 pages, because I'm not going to have time to read it. I like a summary of what's going on like you're doing now. If there may be a summary piece in there that shows, you know, here's how many work orders got open, here's how many got closed, here's the average time. I'm sure they have all that stuff built in there, but it should be just like a big summary. That's probably what I'd be interested in, like on a quarterly basis. Maybe it's January, April, you know, and
Roger.
it's just set for time, specific times, to just shoot that out, because again, if you're happy, the building, the teachers are happy, the buildings are clean, the maintenance is going well, it's kind of speaks for itself. But it's kind of nice to just get that overview and also be able to publicly say, you know, hey, great job, guys, you know, it's
Right.
going as planned. That's a good day.
Yep, it is
Awesome.
going very well. I keep fingers across every day. I keep knocking on wood and making sure that I'm not missing anything. Here this year, it's like driving a Corvette at 90 miles an hour going through school, especially for transportation and maintenance and custodial. It's a bad term, I guess, to put that out there that way, but that's how the year has been. Feels like you start at 7 a.m. and next thing you know, it's 7 p.m.
Right. So, I mean, does that make sense for everybody? I mean, January, April, July, and October, just kind of throw a summary at us, and then that way it'd be an ongoing thing, you know, here's the summary of
Sounds
cleaning
good.
and maintenance.
However you want it, I can make sure that you get it that way. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure that I'll be open and keeping you guys informed.
thank you.
And that's all I had for this month. I talked quite a bit enough.
The-
If there's no questions, then we'll call it a day.
Questions? Everything's else is going good?
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That'll conclude our meeting.